The mirror begins with me racing at full speed towards a spooky, otherworldly fortress guarded by a bunch of murderous zombies. I make my way through the Scorn and their captain and proceed to destroy this peculiar space chicken nugget. I destroy a second and am permitted entrance to the cave. More Scorn block the path, but they are soon reduced to a couple of puddles, and I use my newly acquired deep sight powers to reveal the way forward. An abomination stands in my way, so I promptly show him why he should give death a second chance. I use deep sight and get confused because I'm a titan. But after following the footprints the wrong way at first, I'm able to continue my adventure. I jump between these non-existent platforms for a while, but am thrown off by an ambush, and this Scorn Raider almost claims my life. However, a well-timed finisher saves me from plummeting to my death. I jump to the final platform and am buried in bolts from the Scorn Raiders lying in wait. A desperate battle for survival ensues, with a few close calls. These two very close together brushes with death begin to make me doubt my abilities for the rest of this level. The lower down enemies feel as if they're hitting much harder than before, and the attack section from the previous level has left a mark on my pride and on my soul. I decide to soldier on and deal with what happens as it comes. Deep sight, murder, deep sight. An abomination with the high ground pins me, so I make the accidental smart decision of using my defensive shield in an offensive way, trapping him before I can get close and deliver the killing blow to him and his brother. I shoot some space chicken nuggets and a pathway opens up, leading me deeper into the cave. I make my way into the boss room and charge up at the checkpoint. The boss jumps down to fight, and with an enthusiasm for violence, I do the same, meeting him in the arena, activating my super. We clash and he attempts to back up, but I give chase, killing his supporters along the way. My super runs out, and I retreat to one of the font of lights in the room to recharge it, defeating the Scorn that attempt to stop me. When I'm fully charged, I recklessly dive back into the arena with my eyes fixed solely on the boss. I lay into him with everything I've got, not giving him room to breathe. The enemies amassing around us not crossing my mind for a second. As I go for a third attack with my sentinel shield, the increasing number of Scorn flooding the room begins to be too much, and the two abominations standing at the back of the arena whittle my health down to the red. I dispel one with my super, but am pinned when it wears out, the only thing saving me being my barricade. From a distance, I begin to work on the second abomination before closing the distance and opening a hole in his face. Now, in a panicked state, I use a mini Ward of Dawn to protect myself before sprinting up the stairs and taking out the two raiders waiting for me. I dive from the balcony once again, and begin my work on the boss before activating my super and charging. He deploys an overshield protecting him and his minions, and I duck away from the fight to destroy it. He takes this chance and retreats, and I force my way through his soldiers. With my super spent, I make my way back onto the balcony, and use my bow to pick off any Scorn left standing. With glaive in hand and mini Ward of Dawn primed, I jump down to the boss, dropping a shield at his feet, and nosediving with my blade, cutting the head from this Scorn chieftain. I make my way back up the balcony and use deep sight to open a path into the weird room. I've used Savathun's memory and beat the mirror as a medieval knight. The cunning begins with the search for another secret underground temple. I guess I've had a fetish for these or something. I stumble around in the dark and once again find myself in this dreaded room. I re-murder these shambling corpses before diving through the portal and charging up at the checkpoint. I snipe these two Scorn, the second one getting stuck in his falling animation, which amused me greatly. Because of my inbuilt Titan overconfidence, I once again underestimate the amount of enemies in this section, and am surprised by a pack of Ravagers that I put to the sword. A second pack shows up, and this time I use my squishy brain to defeat them. A mini brawl with this mini boss ensues, resulting in him throwing me out of his hive gazebo. I charge him and a third group of Ravagers, crushing them under my knightly boots. A second abomination, determined to avenge his fallen brother, begins his assault, and with my sentinel shield already spent, I'm backed into a corner. While attempting to damage him from afar, his minions rush in, determined to bring my corpse back to their master. But I send them back to the void from which they came. I prime my mini Ward of Dawn and begin chopping away at the abomination. A few quick slashes and he hits the ground, giving me room to breathe. The hard part was over. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. This room was a manifested panic attack. Come one, come all to Guardian Slaughterfest 2024. All Scorn of all shapes and sizes are invited, especially those of the suicide-bombing persuasion. If you're a screep with enough dark ether to melt steel beams, then this party is for you. And if you're not of the exploding variety, that's okay too. Just sit in the back and spray enough bullets to block out the sun. If it doesn't kill the Guardian, it'll certainly make her want to kill herself. The point I'm trying to make is this room was horrific and I never want to return. I throw myself headfirst into this chasm and land at the doorstep of Savathun's temple. I pick off the Scorn guarding it and go for a little stroll. These two chieftains decide today is the day they'd like to get turned into paste and engage me. I politely grant their request and liquefy their bones. I go for another stroll and shoot some more people. I drop my barrier and start my work on lowering the drawbridge over the temple. All varieties of Scorn rush in, attempting to stop me, but I stand my ground. The Scorn's assault continues and I dart my attention from side to side, determined not to be overrun. But, despite my best efforts, they break the line and I am on the back foot once again. I survive a string of scream explosions thanks to unconventional tactics and also punching things. I cut down the last two chieftains as they charge me, and with that the drawbridge opens, my path to the temple now laying before me. I fight my way across the bridge and this guy does a cartwheel to celebrate. For nothing other than fun, I cut down another abomination and run across the bridge that doesn't exist. I charge up at the checkpoint and get ready for the most frustrating boss. Now this little bastard I hate with everything that I am. He is a fast little coward this side of the throne world and he isn't ashamed of it. He will constantly dart out of the way of danger and then shoot you from afar. Which I know makes sense, but I've just got a sword and shield here and I gotta, come on, just cut me some slack. I chased this speedy fuckwit around this arena for what felt like an eternity. And whenever I would get close, his minions of fuckwittery would block the path and nobly lay down their lives so he could continue his fuckwit ways. And when I would get lucky and land a few shots or even a grenade on the fuckwit in question, more Scorns of all shapes and sizes would appear in the room, and the entire process would start over again. I began saving my glaive ammo just for the boss, as that was the only thing I was catching him with, which meant I'd have to deal with the other Scorn with only my bow. I attempted several times to land the patented wobble sword and shield technique, but the second I deployed the shield on him, he'd dart away and maybe I'd get one swing in on him. After far too long, I finally get my opening and blast his wretched bag of bones into the ground. I grab a worm friend and I'm ready for boss number 2. I'm not going to lie to you. This fight is very boring, especially with a bow and arrow. The Ahankara shoots some energy, I hide behind a pillar, I then peek out from behind the pillar and shoot him in the mouth. Some enemies spawn, I kill them, and then rinse and repeat. So I hope if you don't mind me just speeding past this long drawn out fight. The illusion falls and the temple begins to cave in. I rush up the stairs and begin the section that reminds me of the end of Halo 3. And to make up for me skipping that fight, please enjoy this escape section.
Ghost. Guardian. Come in. Are you there?
I escape the temple and beat the cunning as a medieval knight. We're here, at the last chance. Just 2 left until our quest is complete. It was at this point that I felt invigorated. No matter what this mission threw at me, I would be ready. Or at least that's what I thought. Maybe it was my overconfidence or my stupidity. But I forgot to charge up at this checkpoint. I had broken my little mini ritual. And for this, I would be subject to the Witch Queen's curse. Of course, this curse didn't activate immediately. The God of Cunning would never be so kind. I was allowed to slip into a sense of safety as I tore through this section and cracked open this lock. Even in the next room where I was pinned down, the curse still waited. I pushed through and dealt with the hive as they attacked. I was able to get the drop on this hive hunter, and after turning his ghost into a pile of scrap, his forces retreated. But then, as soon as I charged up at the next checkpoint, curse came into effect. I started by eliminating the acolytes at the start, and after a quick game of evasion, treated the first wizard to the same fate. I cut down the Hive Swordbearer and made my way to wizard number 2. But after being surrounded by Hive forces, I was slain. I once again take out the acolytes and engage the first wizard in a grudge match, ending with the contents of his head spilt across the floor like a messed up Jackson Pollock painting. I make certain to murder all the ground forces I can before making my way to the Swordbearer. The Swordbearer is defeated, but I decided to eliminate the second wizard before picking up his sword. I decide to take on the first lock-protecting boy with my sentinel shield, and come back with the sword later. I take out the other knights around the area and reclaim the sword, using it to smash lock number 1. Shrek shows up, and I go into a state of panic, trying to take him out from a distance with the sword's long-range attack. This doesn't work, and I end up hiding in fear for my life. I take out my own sword and sneak up on the ogre, plunging my blade into his back and sending him to the swamp in the sky. I'm then flattened by a sentinel shield of a Hive Titan in a cruel twist of fate. I kill the 3 acolytes and bring my sword down on the wizard. I kill wizard number 2 from a distance, and murder the swordbearer with my own sword. The curse demonstrates its power again by making this small little light moth fly into the path of my sword swing, ending my life once again. I kill the acolytes, I kill wizard number 1, and wizard number 2. The swordbearer is impaled and I take his sword. Super time on Lockboy and his friends ends with their untimely deaths. I concuss a knight, the sword disappears. I concuss a second knight, and kill the swordbearer once again. I smash the lock and learn that Swordboy's sword can blast Shrek's eye blast back at him, weakening him until I can get close and deliver the final blow. It took me so long to get through that. Okay, back to where we were. I used the sword's long-range attack on the Hive Knight and Titan, trying to kill them without getting close. The Knight's cannon and the Titan's barrier put a stop to this plan. I close the distance and begin to chip away at the Titan, but my eagerness gets the best of me and I stumble off the edge. I fight with gravity for as long as I can, but soon plummet to my death. Acolytes, wizard number 1, swordbearer, wizard number 2. Super on Lockboy. And get bones crushed by Swordboy when his sword disappears. Okay, let's go again. Kill the acolytes, and the first wizard. I crush Swordboy and Lockboy and smash open the first lock. I destroy the ogre, and with a mini Ward of Dawn return the Hive Titan and his ghost to the light. I celebrate that this is the furthest I've made it by killing the Swordboy once again. The amount of enemies here pin me down, allowing me to only take hot shots with the sword's long-range attack. I make the mistake of charging the second Lockboy, and they crush my bones. I kill acolytes and bring my sword down on the head of wizard number 1. I try and take on wizard number 2 and get murdered by the swordbearer. My grip begins to slip here as I'm killed by wizard number 1. I kill the acolytes, and first wizard kills me again. Acolytes, wizard number 1. Swordboy, killed by wizard 2. Acolytes, wizard number 1. Swordboy and wizard 2 at the same time. Super on Lockboy, smash lock, behead Shrek. Whilst in combat with the Hive Titan, a stray blast launches me across the arena, and I begin to fall once again. But determined not to die the same way twice, I switch to my own sword and with a wild swing get close enough to the ledge to pull myself up. I run for safety and get ready to counter. I kill the Hive Titan and squish his ghost. I crush Swordboy again and steal his sword. I decide to pick off the enemies here with my bow, and picking up the sword every now and again to stop it from despawning. I eventually forget about the sword, and it does despawn when I kill the knights at the top. I drop a shield at the feet of Lockboy 2 and slash away at his health. But he backs out of the shield, and before I can get close enough to finish him off, he backhands me and I plummet to my death. I kill the acolytes and the first wizard, and then get nailed by a sentinel shield from a blind corner. I kill wizard 1, Swordboy, and wizard 2. Lockboy is smashed, much like his lock, and I send Shrek far, far away. In a moment of absolute anxiety, I take on a Hive Knight, Titan, and Swordboy at once, jumping between opponents like some deranged jack-in-a-box. I take my time and pick off the surrounding enemies, finally bring my blade down on Lockboy number 2. I butcher the swordbearer for what I hope is the final time, and use his blade to smash the second lock. I drop my barrier and attack Shrek from a distance, as well as any other units. And with my sentinel shield in hand, I batter the third wizard, and after a few good hits, he crumples into a ball and throws himself away. Fuck. With little time to rest, I carve a path through this Hive murder house and am once again greeted by Shrek. I hit him with my shield and blast him a few times, which inverts his internal organs. I stab and blow up a few more people that stand between me and my prize. I charge forward with the knowledge that nothing could ever be as bad as the previous section. I ascend the spire, butcher a few more hive, and then continue to ascend. I charge up at the checkpoint with the curse broken and get ready to cut away Sevenmoon's right-hand man. The wizard spawns and I jump at him, bashing him with my sentinel shield, not giving away an inch of ground. I wound him enough and he teleports away, and a large hive force opens fire on my face. I throw out what I can and drop a barricade to recharge my overshield, before running around to find safety in a state of absolute panic. I make my way through the hive forces and use one of the swordboy swords to finish off those left over and to smash through the lock. I kill more hive in the next room and the wizard appears once again with vengeance in its heart. I deploy my mini ward of dawn and cut into the wizard with my sword. After a few slashes, I mistakenly assume he's down for the count and retreat to the back of the room. Realizing my mistake, I fight back through the room to get to him and deploy another mini ward of dawn at his feet. I jump at him with my sword and he decides he's had enough and teleports away. More hives spawn in and I set up a chain reaction of explosions to deal with the thrall. I'm still overwhelmed and run back to my mini ward of dawn for safety, cutting down all the hive that enter it. Through a combination of punching and blowing myself up, I overcome the hive and smash the final lock. I run in and am greeted by a hive titan who opens fire on me. We both drop barricades and wait for the other to make the first move. He activates his sentinel shield and I blast him with my blade. He charges me and I deploy my mini ward of dawn and begin cutting away at his armor with my sword. I prove myself the superior titan and crush his ghost for good measure. With the hive army gunning me down, I activate my super and attack the wizard, ignoring the bullets littering my body. The wizard drops and I turn his ghost into paste, loosen the hive retreat, I grab the crystal shard and beat the last chance as a medieval knight. The ritual begins with a long sparrow ride to the front gate. A chance to reflect. To reflect on all the obstacles that came before and all the ones that are about to come. To reflect on all the enemies that have been felled by my shitty little bow and my pointy stick. To reflect on the fact that I'm about to take my extremely unequipped ass and fight a god. And most importantly, to reflect on how fun that'll be. It's a good time to be a titan. I dive into the onslaught of hive knights rushing me and cut the first down with a smile on my face. This was going to be challenging and I was going to love it. The hive titan and I spot each other from across the battlefield and trade shields. I rush him with my super and he does the same. We trade a few blows but he taps out and I squish his spooky buddy. Omega Shrek blocks the path and I square up to fight him, but I'm saved by a friendly warlock. I advance through the courtyard, cutting down thralls and Shrek the Lesser until I reach the hive hunter guarding the entrance. A few quick blasts and a shield for safety's sake, and I'm able to return him and his ghost to the light. I charge up at the checkpoint and hop down to boss fight number 1. I shoot through the acolytes at the base of the stairs and subject this hive wizard to an explosive end. I spend a bit too long memorizing the glyphs and jump into the portal. I hunker down at the first crystal and in full-blown combat mode pick away at the hive, ending the night with what was slowly becoming my favourite finisher. I shatter the crystal and the reinforcements have come to avenge it, punching out this acolyte to seal the deal. I chip away at the advancing ogre, ending him, and through what came to be known as the Peekaboo clan, eliminate the Shrieker standing guard. I smash crystal number 2 and begin taking out the hive around number 3 from a distance. My glaive finishes off the last 2 standing, and crystal number 3 is destroyed. I find the right portal and jump through. I steal this void charge and dive down to deposit it, using the power of falling with style to get as close as possible. I drop it in and quickly run for my life. I'm bombarded by hive, but manage to slay the hive wizard and memorize the glyphs. Here we go again. I clear the area around crystal 4 and destroy it. I'm pinned down by crystal 5, so I duck behind a little pillar and fire away at the acolytes first, targeting their light moth explosive thing. 2 of the wizards fall shortly after, and I destroy crystal number 5. The peekaboo tactic once again comes into play, and the Shrieker is promptly eliminated. I cut down the knights by crystal number 6, and quickly shatter it, revealing the path forward. I jump through the portal and grab the second void charge. My falling with style is interrupted by a few blasts to the face, so I change direction and put up a barricade to protect myself. I charge forward and deposit the charge. I break crystal number 7 and am overwhelmed with self-destructive hive. After a few close calls, I take out the final crystal and get ready for wizard time. I activate my super and charge the wizard, landing a few quick strikes. The wizard responds with his own super. Before he can deal any serious damage, I destroy him and his ghost. I take the lift to the top of the spire and get to work on Savathun's last line of defense. The sword and shield technique fells Shrek once again, and the 2 remaining knights are quickly removed in a similar fashion. I ascend once more and prepare to face the hive god of making shit up. I charge up at the checkpoint and rush to meet my foe.
I'm so glad you're here to see this.
I lunge at Savathun with everything I've got. This is a fight she plans on keeping in the air, and I plan on matching her. Her attacks are grand and mighty, but I don't care. I dodge and weave where I can, and when I can't, I face her up close and personal. I get a slash or 2 in with my sword, hitting her with both heavy and light attacks, no longer caring about the damage she imposes. This is a fight I intend on winning with nothing held back. I activate my super and get as many clean shots in as I can. The Witch Queen's health now less than halfway depleted. Her minions arrive to stop me, but I quickly blast them back to the Stone Age. I continue matching Savathun shot for shot, keeping the fight as close as possible to prevent her from dropping any Nova Bomb or Blade Barrage attacks. I wound her with my glaive and she retreats, sending in her Hive Guardians to defeat me. These are her last lines of defense, the cream of the crop of Hive Guardians, her personal guard. I set about defeating the Hive Warlock first, singling him out from the crowd and drawing him away to be dealt with. I implement my sword and shield technique and cut away at his health, finishing him and destroying his ghost. The Titan was next. I slashed and slashed, but his guard held true, until I brought my sword down upon his head. He hit the ground hard, and his ghost's fragmented body soon joined him. I circled around to the hunter, and a quick heavy attack sent him to his grave. His ghost followed suit. Before this minor victory could sink in, the Witch Queen returned, and began her assault from a distance. My only haven being my glaive's personal shield. With a combination of glaive blasts and a well-timed grenade, I buckle her fuckle and give a good jump. The ghost revives her, and she flees to her final stronghold, and I give chase. Overconfident from my first victory over the Witch Queen, I head in for round 2, unaware of how vicious this fight will be. I give it my all and lay into her, but her strength has doubled since we last met, Count. I do what I can to disrupt her ritual and charge up the final checkpoint, but this fight now begins to prove almost hopeless. My weapons being from the Bronze Age and her being a god, I'm entirely outmatched and destroyed again and again, each death weakening my resolve and making me question if this would even be possible with how under-equipped I am. I ask myself again, is this just a situation of bows and arrows against a lightning storm, as I'm battered against literal and metaphorical rocks? Each time I think I'm beginning to make progress, Savathun and her minions are there to once again knock me down a peg, and I find myself back at the start, feeling nothing but the weight of defeat dragging me down to the depths of the Big Sad. I begin fumbling, making daft mistakes, dying earlier and earlier each time, getting caught out by things that never tripped me up before. I knock at death's door more times than I can count, and after an hour of non-stop defeat, I consider calling it quits, and retreating into a corner to be sad. But then on what I mentally agreed would be my final run, something awakens in me. I throw the Hive God of Lies around this arena like I owned it. The minions begin to feel like nothing but an annoyance, and I tear them down with ease. Savathun can barely land a hit on me, and my glaive is cutting through her health. Her blade barrage hardly breaking the skin. Now on the ropes, she catches me with a last-ditch effort, cutting my health in half, and I rush to get close enough with my sword, both of us ready to end the other. Wait. No! The game crashes, and my spirit is crushed. It feels like I've fallen for the final trick she had up her sleeve, crashing the game itself. This hits me like a semi-truck. Every sweet-tasting victory up to this point feels as though it's been washed away and replaced with the sour lemon of defeat. Every trial overcome, every enemy defeated, every puzzle solved, and every trap avoided now felt worthless. It was like every death I had faced in this crusade hit me all at once. And I gave up. For about 5 minutes, you witchy fuck, Savathun's plan of crashing the game and disheartening me had the exact opposite effect, because she did the one thing you should never do to a Titan. The one thing you must never, ever do. And that's make a Titan angry. I charged into this fight with a newfound hatred for everything Hive. Each step was exact, each blast was on target, each attack was counted. Savathun had made one mistake. One crucial mistake. I had lost this fight so many times in the last near 2 hours but I knew it like the back of my hand, and I only needed to win once. I got into a flow, a rhythm, and no force on this side of the throne world could knock me out of it. I cut through minion after minion, my mind now solely focused on Seraphine. She would get a few, actually more than a few, good shots in. But even when I was firmly in the danger zone, I could recover. But more than that, I could recover without panicking. It was just an obstacle that I knew how to overcome. The fear from before was gone, and replaced only with the drive to push on, to push forward no matter what, and to draw my blade across her throat. I began matching her attacks in flight, now taking this fight to her, instead of ducking away and attacking when I could like in the last few attempts. I wasn't fighting on her terms anymore, she was fighting on mine. All enemies other than the Witch Queen now faded from my mind as a threat. They were merely practice. The wizards that were once my nemesis in this campaign were now little more than an afterthought. This fight was no longer about our respective allegiances, it had become personal for us both. Me wanting to avenge all my former selves, and her wanting to put me 6 feet under once and for all. Neither of us wanting to give up an inch of ground for a second, an unstoppable force versus an unmovable object. Despite this, I continued my assault, my determination not wavering, and me cursing my past self for ever considering surrender. This fight was mine to win, one punch, one shot, one step at a time. I charged her once more with my sentinel shield, the shield that has carried me through this crusade, and we trade blow back and forth once again, our light shining brighter than ever. I land one final shot with my glaive and rush her, sword in hand. And with one last strike, Seraphine hits the ground hard. The fight finally knocked out of her. I look at her, short of breath and ready to collapse at any second.
Isn't this interesting? Miscalculated. The game is yours to play now. Yours to win or lose.
Seraphine speaks her last and finally falls down dead. And I beat the Witch Queen as a medieval knight.